All right. Yeah, this is a story from when I was in high school. This is like this is actually the only time I ever approached a girl in the entire time in high school. The only time I ever went up to a girl and said anything remotely similar to would you like to go out on a date? Would you like to go to the dance with me? Would you like to go to the prom with me? Anything like that? Would you like to go would you like to go out and have dinner tonight? Anything like that. There's nothing. This is the only time in the entire high school time I was in school at all, high school, junior high school, elementary, whatever. The only time I'd ever done anything like this. This was in my senior year of high school when I did this. And this is probably the most psychotic thing I can think of as trying to tell a girl, trying to. I'm not sure exactly what I was trying to do, but here's the way this goes. In my 11th grade history class, this was at Westerville South High School in Westerville, Ohio. There was a girl in my English class. They called it English 11. This guy was Mr. Pringle was his name. Tom Pringle was the teacher's name. He was a pretty big, stocky, big, bespectacled guy. Anyway, he was the teacher, American literature, and he insisted that the course be called American literature, even though they insisted that it was called English 11. He didn't like that. I remember that about him. He was more interesting than I thought he was going to be. Anyway, to my right, every time I walked in there was to the right of me there was seeing throughout the course of the class there was a Filipino girl named Rowena Madlansakai. Okay, she was a really pretty girl, and she was really smart too, and she was really quiet, and she it didn't seem like she would talk to many people. I don't know. She seemed really quiet. I don't think she would keep to herself. Well, anyway, I became friends with her brother at the same time. Me and Richard Booth was another friend. He was a year ahead of me, and Andrew Madlansakai was a year. Rowena's brother was a year below us. He's class of '88. Richard Booth class of '86, and I was in class of '87, and so was Rowena. Okay. Well, anyway, I went through the course of this year, the junior year in high school with fine, and she just we started my senior year. She wasn't in any of my classes. This was in the fall of 1986. I was starting in the fall of my classes in high school, my senior year of high school. This Rowena girl wasn't in any of my classes, and neither was I don't think Andrew was either. Brother was either. But anyway, he was still hanging around being my friend. Richard Booth had already graduated last year, class of '86, so he wasn't there anymore, of course. Anyway, it just throughout the course of the year, I just remained friends with Andrew, and I never really came in contact with Rowena. We just never had any classes in common. Somehow, I mean, this is strange. Somehow in the fall, I think it was late December, actually probably December of 1986, it just suddenly for some reason occurred to me that Rowena was going to be the woman I was going to spend my life with. She was going to be my wife. It just occurred to me that why it just I thought. They were new to the country in the way that I was kind of new to this school, even though I really hadn't they weren't any more new than I was. They started at the same time I did, actually. I just didn't know them either one of them until the start of the junior year, which was only a semester into it. But anyway, it just some reason occurred to me all of a sudden, even though I hadn't been in any class with this girl in probably 6 months, it just occurred to me that this is the woman who's going to spend the rest of my life with. I don't know how I made this connection. This is what I did. How I figured this was because she was really quiet. Like I said, she was new to the country, I guess, and she didn't know she didn't realize that she was supposed to reject me. American girls knew that I was just that I was a garbage. To American girls, I was garbage, apparently. I realized I must have garbage to American girls. So maybe a Filipino girl, I wouldn't be garbage to a Filipino girl. I mean, that's really the way I was thinking. I figured American girls figured I was just total garbage, so I might have a chance with a Filipino girl. And she's really quiet like I am. I tend to keep myself quiet, and she's real intelligent. And she probably would have been a good choice if I could have done. But anyway, But it was nothing based on any kind of thing. It wasn't based on anything sensible, except for the fact that I figured that she didn't know because she was from it, but she doesn't know to reject. She doesn't know to reject me because she's because she doesn't realize I'm garbage because she's Filipino. If she was American, that's the way I really thought. I figured American girls think I'm garbage, so Filipino girl must think might have a chance for the Filipino girl. So I had to instantly go get her to fall in love with me. So I wrote this. Okay, I wrote a poem. I guess if you can call it a poem, if you can call it that. Where it's like I did this thing with bizarre symbolism, something like how I saw just goofy, ridiculous imagery, like how I saw a flower 16 months ago, and I saw it. It was blooming in a different field from the other flowers, and I did not pick it. But now I'm ready to come and pick it. Now I watched it. Like it's just like how it was just like I decided, and she was going to be the flower that I was about to pick. It was different from the others, and how it's okay. It was just garbage, but I couldn't think of it. I had to give something to explain to this girl. That I realized that she's going to spend the rest of her life with me. Okay. So I okay. So I okay. I get some water. Okay. So what I did is I finally wrote the poem. And I met with her. I asked her brother. This was like during the midterm examination period. The schools were open, a little different hours. Well, after the first exam I had, I wanted her brother Andrew, who was a friend of mine, to come over to the Westerville library. It's just a little walk away from the school, Westerville South, and do something for me. I wanted him to translate this poem that I'd written, like 12 lines, into Tagalog. Okay? Translate this poem into Tagalog, the language of the Philippines. And, he did. I was trying to tell it to him, and I gave it to him in paper, and he did it. And then I did it, and then I copied it down. Okay? I made a poem out of it in Tagalog as best I knew. I didn't even know the language. I just kind of went with the words. It looked pretty phonetic to me, at least. So what I did with that poem, that 12-line poem in Tagalog, I spent the 2 weeks, the Christmas break, the break at the end of 1986. I memorized that entire poem in Tagalog. I honestly memorized a 12-line poem. I'm going to see how far I can go with it now. Nakakita ako ng isang bulaklak na biganim na buwan na nakalipas. Ito lamang ang tanging bulaklak na gusto ko. Hindi ko kinuha. Ang bang bulaklak ay sabay nangangin subalit pare-pareho ang kanilang pagsibol noon pa man gusto ko nangkiman ang bulaklak na ito pero hindi ko parin kino. Okay, that's about all I can go with it. Okay, that just shows how much effort I put into this. Okay, and so when it came back after the break, it was January. This is January 1987. We're coming back. This is the last year I was going to be in high school. The last 6 months of high school, 6 months of high school, my life. Coming back, there was this part of through the corridor of Westerville South High School. It was called Freshman Hall. I don't know why they call it that. The one that led to the cafeteria was called Senior Hall. There were lockers in that one, and the other one was called Freshman Hall. And there were just a bench, a long bench on the other side of the auditorium. And anyway, she would walk through Freshman Hall every single morning. Rowena would walk through Freshman Hall. Okay. So as soon as I get there, I was going to I kind of got the story mixed up a little early, but I just noticed the fact that when I had him translate it, it wasn't during midterms. But anyway, I think it was, I forget, but anyway, that's not an important part of the story. What I finally told her was, okay, I would wait for a good opportunity to try to stop her, like practically ambush her, and to ambush Rowena calmly. I'm not going to confront her in a scare, but just come up and approach her and politely, I got something, and finally got the chance to do it. I read this thing. Rowena, nakikita ako ng isang bulaklak na bigyan nabuang ng naklipas. Ito lamang. I recited that whole thing. And she said, that was nice. That was nice. That was really good. And it was just like the pronunciation. She thought I did it very well. She was impressed by what I was able to do. It was just but I'm sure she must have been going through her head why did this guy do this, This guy who was sitting next to me in my English class last year just suddenly comes up to me and reads a 12-line poem in my native language. And probably not spoken very well, but still, amazing amount of memorization I did. I mean, you could tell I was speaking the language, even though I may not be speaking it very well. But, yes, so after I read this thing to her, okay. I was like, yes, I did it. I finally did it. All she has to do is she's going to be calling back and telling me how much she's in love with me. So I figured she was going to fall in love with me the instant she heard that. I really thought she was going to fall in love with me the instant she heard that. And it was after a couple of days when she hadn't called me up and told me, let me know, hey, I'm in love with you now. Of course. I was like, yeah, maybe she didn't get the symbolism. So I took the thing of paper that I memorized it up. I typed it up and memorized it. And I wrote the circle. This symbol means you. These other flowers over here. This means those. The other girls that I don't want to have anything to do with. This is I think I try to explain the symbolism, and she's like, "Wait a minute." Well, I didn't have time to do it. I didn't have time to say it to her. I get in the hallway the next time. She has no time. She doesn't have any time. I'm like, "Here, just read this, please." And she took it, okay. She read it, and then the next day I was at school, I think it was the next day or the day after that, I said, "Do you like my sister?" So she has Andrew says to me, their brother, "Do you like my sister?" I mean, I'm not trying to mock, I just for me to say it I'm not trying to see it with an accent. I mean, then what it sounds, not what a Filipino accent sounds like anyway. I don't know where that came from. Whatever. I like my sister. And I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, she has a boyfriend." I said, "Oh, okay." I was just trying to play I just felt how much I just got hit in the stomach. My whole life had just, I felt my life just ended, I felt like it just fell apart right there. I mean, is that just the most insane, the most psychotic story you've heard about a guy trying to, guy trying to, like, I don't know, what was that? Was I asking her out? What do you call that? That's the only time I ever asked a girl out, and it did anything remotely similar to asking a girl out in my entire school, time in the school, high school and before, was that one time there, the only time. In, 12 years? 12 and a half in kindergarten? It was the only time I'd ever done that. That was it, right there. And that was the most psychotic thing I've ever heard of anybody ever do. And I did it. And I still even remember the poem to a great deal. In Tagalog, a language I never learned to speak, I have a poem that I wrote myself with the help of, with translated by who was to be my brother-in-law. Oh, remember that poem I translated for me? Oh, yeah, that's how you became my brother-in-law. Remember, the uncle of my children. But okay, that's about all I need to tell about. Well, I had to stop it right there because it was just getting a little intense. Thanks for listening. This is quite an outpouring. This is the first time I have ever just recorded a story like this. This is one of the most intense things that ever happened in my life. And I don't, the life of me, why I thought it made, can't for the life of me thought it, why it made any sense.